Welcome to Understanding Exceptional. I'm Dr. John, and this is 5 Minutes Unfiltered. This will be a 5-minute discussion on a topic. Today's topic is, what is ADHD? So here I go. ADHD, like all the other disorders we've discussed, is nothing more than a word that represents a set of behaviors. Behaviors we've come to associate with that term, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Knowing at the Understanding Exceptional community that we cannot have a behavior without a brain, now we need to look backwards into what brain systems are operating differently or have developed differently to create the behaviors we've come to associate with ADHD. So let's look at those. The first set of brain systems we want to look at are the sensory systems. The things that we see, the things that we hear, the things that we feel. We have to process, associate, and store sensory information. Now, in those diagnosed with ADHD, oftentimes those sensory systems are absolutely well developed. In many cases, they're advanced in terms of their development. So the second set of brain systems that might cause behaviors associated with ADHD would be the regulatory systems. So we have to have brain systems that regulate where we look and what we're listening to. They're regulating through processes like attention and inhibition how we experience our world. And so logically, it is the regulatory systems in those diagnosed with ADHD that operate differently. Now I say differently because these systems are not broken or absent. Let's take a behavior like attention. If you have somebody with ADHD, let's say technology is their thing, and you put them on technology, they will hyper-focus. It's going to be hard to get them away from that technology. They might hyper-inhibit. You may call their name, and while they're focused on their technology, they may not turn around. They may not divert their attention to you. So it's not a matter of when you have ADHD, you can't pay attention, or you can't inhibit, or you can't organize. It's that these brain systems have developed differently, and therefore we almost see a polarization of those behaviors. In certain circumstances, it's very hard to pay attention, it's hard to inhibit, it's hard to regulate. In other situations, it's easy to do it, and it happens better than it does for most. So those are the behaviors associated with ADHD and the brain systems involved. ADHD is nothing more than a difference in the development and the functioning of our regulatory systems. It cannot be any other way. So this is why, in certain circumstances, regulating attention tends to be more challenging, or regulating movement tends to be more challenging. We're hyperactive or we're restless. All these words to describe behavior, but they all come down to that interplay between the regulator and the sensory system. What we found in those diagnosed with ADHD is that those regulatory systems, like I said, aren't broken or absent, but they are very much driven by internal motivation. So for those diagnosed with ADHD, their level of motivation, their level of interest, or the reward involved tends to determine how well their regulatory systems operate. Now, a term like ADHD and the reality that the regulatory systems operate differently, that is not an excuse. We're never here to excuse behavior, but if we want to change behavior, well, we have to know where it's starting from. We have to know its source. We can't just look at a behavior and say, you should pay attention. If someone's not paying attention, we need to know why. What brain systems aren't active in that moment that cause their attention to fluctuate? This is what is so critical about understanding what these terms actually mean. So in summary, ADHD is nothing more than a word that describes a set of behaviors that can be variable among individuals that are born from brain systems that develop and function differently. Now we can use that word ADHD to make sure we bring different tools that are more effective in activating the regulatory systems of those with that diagnosis. So again, it's nothing more than a word to describe behaviors that are born from brains that develop and function differently. These are not broken brains, they're just different. So now we know, since there are differences, we need new tools. Hopefully that was helpful. Either way, agree, disagree, join the conversation. Our conversation creates understanding. Our understanding is our empowerment. We'll see you on the next video.